Hello, this is Mike of Nearly Enough Dice, and you're watching the Kerbal Space Program. We are back on the Mun! Not really back on the Mun, this is fake back on the Mun, this is testing again. And I'm just going to show you the latest that I've got with my hover script. Now, the two changes I've made. I've actually added a second KOS unit because there was a point where I was repurposing one of my old docking script. The idea being that this would then automatically shut down all drift. I could set it like it won't drift anymore relative to the target. But I'm actually not feeling that needful of that anymore. I've put a bunch of these linear RCS ports on the sides here to complement this one here. Basically, that's got a thrust value of 1, same as that, but it can thrust in any number of directions. Except it can't go directly out, so I didn't have any sideways motion. I couldn't go sideways at all. So I've now chucked those 3 there, and I've got 1 back there. So in each direction, it should be a thrust of 3. Right. And I did make my a kind of semi-docking script, which is actually, it had a bit which was quite clever. I thought it was quite clever anyway. If you control in KOS, if you control something like the starboard left and right, which is done by RCS, your pilot can't then control it. You don't. If you can hit the keys, nothing happens. But the KOS does keep track of what the value is, as in, are you pressing the starboard keys at all? And I was actually able to set a thing where I would set the desired velocity to the desired starboard velocity, for example, to 0, plus the starboard pilot control, which obviously is going to go from -1 to 1. So if you had your hands off the keys, it would stay absolutely stationary. But if you hit left, it would say, I'll set a velocity of -1, which is to the left. If you hit right, it'll go, you want a velocity of +1, and it'll go to the right, and then it'll actually set that for you. So you actually did get some control. But I seem to be able to control this fairly well as is, so I might just leave it. The other thing I've done in terms of scripting is now I've got it so it takes its height not from the center of mass of the ship as compared to the altitude, the terrain altitude, but from here. And I actually had to do a bit of kind of sideways wrangling, I think, where I was literally saying, okay, where's that position in space relative to the ship? Because the ship's position is always 0, 0, 0. So where's that position? Okay, there. Okay, what body am I orbiting around? Right. What is the geoposition of this front claw? All right. Okay, and then I translate that back into ship raw, and then the difference between that position and the ship raw and that geo position, the magnitude of that is the actual height of the claw above the ground, and that appears to work. So I'm just going to run and take away the gear. Oh, have to not be. So that's it now running off that. The display is now a bit bonkers, well, a bit wrong. Alt radar is not. Current alt radar isn't telling me anything useful. It's telling me how high the ship is above the terrain, but not the height of this, which is what I haven't changed the display basically. So anyway, now if I just move my fingers over to the translation control, I've got a reasonable amount of translation. And you can actually tell that this is about the right height as I get closer, because I've realised that this rover here was originally set up to also have its claw at that height, which you can actually tell by the position of the landing gear. You see the centre of the where the landing gear is. Hang on, let's do this one. There we go. You see where that landing gear hinge is right on the centre of there, and the landing gear hinge similarly, I think that's it there, is on that same alignment. So as I get closer, not incredibly fast, but I don't really want to be incredibly fast. You can see that I'm sticking very close to that height. And because the ground is sloping away at that point, wait, let's go back a bit. Because the ground is sloping away at that point, my alt radar is quite a lot higher than it would be normally. Than it would have been had I done it the other way. Let's come back. Right. It's going to very quickly. We have to go rescue this. He's now wandering off in a silly direction. Let's going to shut down the engine on that. Alright, get back here. Quick! Whoop, wrong things, wrong things. And now just to make sure the pivot is free actually. That's interesting. Yeah. When it's armed, I think it looks like it's when it's armed, it's not free. That's interesting. Okay, roll. So I don't think I need anything special to help me make contact like I thought I did. So now there I am. I've made contact. Let's free the pivot. Let's put the gear down. And then turn everything off. So there you go. Now I've moved it a bit. You know, I've shifted it a bit because it's actually on a slope, and I've now fixed it at that height. I fixed it there, which is not because it's measuring its actual height from about here or so. So it's slightly down and also when the gears go down, you know, it's not perfect, but it's going to be good enough. And I reckon when I do the same thing, if I do any more things, they're not going to be great big sticky out things like this. They're going to be more like the back end here. And so that's going to be, I think that's going to be, the slope issue is going to be much less of an issue. But you can see how well it lines up. The claw lines up with the height of that. So fundamentally, I'm quite pleased with that. I think that works quite well. What I really need to do is I should for the more general case, I should have a try with something with a docking port and try and attach a docking port to this docking port. But given what I'm going to be trying to do, which is connecting to my minor base, this is almost certainly going to be good enough. Assuming I go with the sky crane at all, because a big question hangs over all this, which is how much delta V am I going to need in this thing? If I just close that, because this has only got this good lord, it's only got that much. It's got much slightly less than I thought it did, actually. It's only got 710 meters per second delta V, which, oh, well, actually, that's the whole thing. So I've suddenly realised that's the whole thing, because it's now attached to this, so it's now got that weight attached to it. So if I release that, yeah, that only takes me up to 840, which is actually what I remember. That's why I was going, what? I was very confused. I thought I was fairly clear as 840 meters a second. With that 840 meters a second, is that going to be enough to land and then hover myself over to my miner? Because I would have to make sure that I get really rather close. Now, just to check. Yeah, so this doesn't have enough RCS thrust to get off the ground. So I can't, you know, if it comes down to that, I can't do that. I can't get it off the ground. So that's a thing. The thing I'm going to have to think about. So the other option that occurs to me is, as I believe I mentioned, is to make a rover that will rove underneath. The advantage of rovers is that once they're on the ground, and if they've got power, and I can, if nothing else, I can still power off these nuclear generators. If they've got power, they can go forever, which is rather handy. So one possibility is to not just have this attached when I rocket all this up. So this is going to be down this end. Not just have that, but also have a rover which can get underneath. That way, if it all goes horribly wrong, and I'm very far away from where I want to be, I can rove that way instead of having to use precious delta V. I'm trying to work out if I can find the where my miner is. It's not showing up. Oh no, that must be it then. Yeah, that's my mining station. So that's 20 odd kilometers away. So depending on how close I get is going to be a big thing on whether I can just get there easily. So it supposedly takes about 600 odd delta V to land, but there's a question of how long I can hover for a given amount of delta for a given amount of delta V. And will that get me close enough to get anywhere? Questions. Another possibility is again a rover idea, but the idea of this rover is purely to grab fuel off the mining station, get underneath this, and refuel it. So so long as I can get down that I'm within some distance, the rover can wander off, grab some fuel from the mining station, head back, and refuel this, and everything's fine. Yeah, so that's yet another thought for what I'm going to do. But the hovering is fine now. I think everything's fine. It's going to be pointing in the right direction. I may end up lifting the thing up like this, but in many ways that is just making it more go towards the vertical. I think, where are we? I mean, if we look at the mining station itself, I'm getting a blank screen. You're getting a nice picture of me. It's actually on a less slopey area. No, actually, it's pretty slopey. And the area, that's quite slopey. The area I have to attach to is here. It's going to be right on here. So that's a thing I need to think about. No, I'm just wondering. Oh, sorry. I'm staring at this thing, and I'm suddenly realizing it's completely pointless because this is all testing and simulation, which means I'm going to be going back and going back to an earlier save point. So it doesn't even matter what's going on here. It's currently mining some ore very, very slowly. What's making that noise? I don't know what's making that noise, and I don't care. So there you go. That's what I've been up to today. I think I'm actually at the stage of just time to go for it. You know, time to put the. I might do a couple of test landings. Just to see how much landing is going to take and how much Delta V is going to take. How easy is it? Am I likely to just fall out the sky and kill myself? No, I've actually gone to the taxi stand. That's needed. There you go. Yeah. So what is going to happen when I try to go for it? But that'll be for another episode. So thanks so much for watching. I do hope you've been enjoying this. Hit like and subscribe if so. You can find Neil Love Dice at neillovedice.com, and we're also on Twitter and Facebook, so you do find us there. And until next time, reach for the stars.